and now. I'm excited to kick off today's event. You don't need a DeLorean. You don't need a hot tub time machine. The future of work is now. 5 trends you need to know, sponsored by Blackrock. We're thrilled to be joined by 3 panelists from Blackrock for a discussion about how the 5 megatrends Blackrock has identified are impacting the future of work, how Blackrock is helping people around the world and its employees prepare for the future, and the inside scoop on life at the company. So thank you so much to Jeffrey, Tanya, and Anna for joining us today. I'd love to get this conversation started by asking you all to introduce yourselves. Just tell us a little bit about your background, your role at Blackrock, and how long you've been with the company. Anna, how about you get us started?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Verhagen. I'm an iShares product strategist on the Megatrends and International team. I am also an associate on the team. I've been on this team with Jeff and Tanya for about 9 months, but I've been with Blackrock for about 4 years. I joined first as an intern while still in school, and then I came in full-time through our analyst program, and I worked in a bunch of roles within our US sales business, where my clients were financial advisors, and I covered all of BlackRock's products from mutual funds to ETFs to separately managed accounts and everything in between. And then as I said earlier, I transitioned to Jeff's team in January, where I've been ever since, loving it. And I'm really excited to be on this call to chat with you all today. So thank you for having me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tanya, how about you?
Thanks, Lasheen. Hi, guys. I'm Tanya Chanda. I'm an iShares product strategist as well, covering Megatrends International and our sector franchises. I'm the newest member of the Megatrends team. I've been with the team for about 6 months. Prior to my role at Blackrock, I was in corporate strategy at Barclays, and prior to that, covered private infrastructure at JP Morgan. So excited to be chatting with you all today.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Happy to have you here. And Jeffrey, please let us know about yourself.
Sure. So Jeff Spiegel, I lead the Megatrend International and Sector ETF businesses at Blackrock. I have been at the firm about 8 years. I started my career in mortgage trading and structuring, did some work in alternatives investments at a family office. And at Blackrock, I've been part of both our retirement group and now our iShares business. I'm excited to talk to you guys about innovation today. And Lasheen, you're right, no DeLorean or hot tub time machine required, but it would be nice. I think we can all agree. But that's probably a conversation for another day.
Absolutely. So guys, we're here today to talk about the future of work, the 5 trends you need to know. And to kick things off, Jeffrey's actually going to share a presentation. Then we'll dive into our discussion questions, and we'll end it all by taking questions from the audience. So Jeffrey, the Zoom is all yours.
Awesome. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And so, look, we're really excited today to talk about megatrends, right? Megatrends are the, weird, no screen to share. Okay, I'm going to start doing this without a screen, and if the screen pops up, we'll be lucky. So I'm going to talk about megatrends, long-term structural transformational forces, and Lasheen, I think that you sort of linked up the topics really nicely. Blackrock is helping investors think about the future in a variety of ways. So megatrends is certainly not the only area where that's a focus of ours, but it's certainly one of the fastest growing and most exciting. Did my screen pop up? Did I manage to pull that off? Okay. And I think that Blackrock's a forward-looking company in a wide variety of ways. So certainly that plays out in my day-to-day, just as an employee here. Outside of this product business that we look after. But on top of that, I have the privilege to help investors, as does Anna and as does Tanya, think about the future in their portfolios. So we'll start with that part of the conversation, but really excited to broaden it out as we continue the discussion into all the areas in which Blackrock is forward-looking, just as a employer and the way we operate in the world. So what are megatrends? Well, megatrends are long-term structural forces, right? And this term structural is really important. What this means is investment opportunities that will play out over years, if not decades. And the catalysts for them are almost inevitable, right? And we contrast this with cyclical forces that might rise as fast as they fall. So an example of a structural force would be the rise of connected devices. in the world, right? This is moving in a fairly clear direction. We don't expect it to reverse. It feels like it will grow very consistently for years to come. Cyclical force might be something like government policy, healthcare spending, or interest rates. And in those areas, markets go up, markets go down over time. Both types of investing have a place in clients' portfolios, but structural investing specifically is the focus for Megatrends to help investors who are looking for a long-term perspective on the forces transforming the world. Now, to aid in that search, Blackrock has identified 5 megatrends. Now, we're a global firm. We have capabilities across a variety of investing styles, from active management to index management, private markets investors. And so we really put our heads together, as well as talk to amazing external partners and clients of ours to lay out these 5 superhighways into the future. So the first is technological breakthroughs, long-term shifts in connectivity, rise in the number of connected devices. Think of AI, robotics, and cybersecurity. Demographics, aging populations. In the next decade, there will actually be more grandparents than grandchildren in the United States for the first time in our history, driving much more healthcare spending and medical breakthroughs. Rapid urbanization, the rise of cities in emerging markets, and their revitalization in developed markets. Climate change, amazing technological advancements, societal shifts, consumer preference shifts, government and corporate attitude shifts that are leading to greater adoption of areas like clean energy and electric vehicles. And then last, emerging global wealth. 1 to 2 billion people will enter the global middle class in the next decade. 90% of them today live in emerging markets in Southeast Asia. And these consumers are really going to transform the global economy. So let's take some examples of all this. Let's talk about structural themes. So, at the turn of the 20th century, you had the transition from the horse or the horse and buggy to the automobile. And actually, it took about 25 years for that transition to complete. So from 1905 to 1930, the number of horse-drawn carriages in the world fell by 93% as our modes of transportation immediately transformed. But 25 years is a medium-term amount of time, right? Let's take another example. Let's fast forward a little bit. In this case, to the middle of the 20th centuries. Back in 1946, at the end of World War II, 1 in 10,000 American households had a television. By 1958, only 12 years later, 83% of US households had television. So what we're seeing here is that technological innovation and adoption of breakthroughs is happening faster and faster throughout the 20th century. And as we click into the 21st century, we see that it's happening ever faster still. It took 7 years for a quarter of the US population to get online, 4 years for a quarter of the population to be on Facebook, and only 2 years to reach about 100 million people on TikTok. So as technology advances, our adoption of it moves faster and faster. Now, obviously, 2020 was an unprecedented year in so many different ways. And when we think about structural changes, yes, they happen over long, extended periods of time, but there are moments, catalysts, that can really push them forward. And I would argue that COVID-19 and all of the events surrounding the year 2020 have accelerated many of these megatrends. Just looking at a few examples, following COVID-19, and in many ways due to it, $500 billion has been committed to green energy around the world. The first FDA-approved mRNA vaccines were deployed for use. Actually, my father got his booster shot yesterday and woke up not feeling great this morning. But I mean, think about the opportunity we have to get a vaccine that's 95% effective. Makes us not feel well for about 24 hours, but is nonetheless an unprecedented medical accomplishment. 72% of CFOs are expecting to offer more work from home flexibility, given this sort of broad scale experiment we tried of working home during the pandemic. And Anna, Tanya, and I are all coming to you from our homes today, even as we do our Blackrock work, as we might normally in the office. So how do you invest in these long-term structural transformations? Well, we think of this as a Goldilocks problem, and I'll walk you through why. But I'm guessing many of us on this call are familiar with FAANG, FAANG, an acronym for some of the most powerful, successful, innovative companies of the past 20 years: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. And each of these companies rode megatrends to that success: Facebook, social networking; Amazon, e-commerce; Apple, the smartphone; Netflix, streaming; Google, really search and the internet writ large. But it can be really hard to pick the next set of FAANGs. And so what we're encouraging investors in our business to do is to transform their thinking from FAANG to trend. And TREND, those aren't the first letters of the next 5 companies that are going to be amazing innovators. I literally mean think about the trend, because the trend is an opportunity to invest that's clearly visible in front of us. So we'll play a little game. We call it, can you spot the FAANG? So what we look at here is a chart of 2 e-commerce companies in the late 90s. Now, by the late 90s, and I may be the oldest person on this call, but by the late 90s, those of us who were investor age in the 90s knew that e-commerce was coming. And the market had recognized that, but it didn't necessarily pick the winner all that well. So one company in the late 90s, company A here, was a toy seller online, up about 213%. Company B was a bookseller, up about 22%. And once I said bookseller, you probably saw where I was going with this. That toy seller was a company called eToys. They went out of business. The bookseller, of course, was Amazon. An investor in Amazon had a 45 times return on their investment. So even though the market knew that e-commerce was going to be a huge growth area, it didn't know early on who the winner was going to be. And it's possible that investors who focused on the trend itself would have done better than ones who just tried to pick between the likes of an Amazon and an eToys in those early days. So actually, we see 3 approaches in this space. So one is to try and pick single stocks. And you see we put question marks for the outcome here. You could knock it out of the park with an Amazon, or you could lose it all with an eToys. You can invest in a tech index. Over that same 20-year period, you'd have a 5x return, not bad. Or you can invest in a megatrend index, something focused on e-commerce broadly. And in that case, you would have a 28x return. Those are the kinds of products that we're building in our megatrend lineup at Blackrock. Opportunities for investors to spot a trend, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, genomics, clean energy, and then not have to pick single stock winners, but access a diversified basket of names that give them access to the future that they believe is coming without all of that single stock risk. So apologies, I'm jumping around, but I just want to quickly reorient us on the 5 megatrends, right? Technology, demographics, urbanization, climate change, and emerging global wealth, right? That's what we build ETFs and other investment products to capture. And I'm not going to talk through all of our megatrends, but I do want to do one quick exercise. Unfortunately, I can't see you all. So usually I do a show of hands for this, but instead, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions to you. Think about the answer for yourself, and I'll share some national results in a moment. So I talked a couple times already, about the connectivity of the world, right? The rise of the Internet of Things. And let's see if we can illustrate that. So 2 questions for you. First, what would you rather sacrifice for a week? Your smartphone or dessert? Think about the answer. Second, what would you rather sacrifice for a week? Your smartphone or alcohol? A glass of wine with dinner, a beer at the ball game, whatever it is. So think about that. Smartphone versus dessert, smartphone versus alcohol. And let's take a look at the national results. So half of Americans are willing to give up dessert for their smartphone, and almost 3/4 of Americans are willing to give up alcohol for their smartphone. I don't think it's a stretch to say that for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, alcohol and sweets have been things that human beings have really liked a lot. And yet in 10, maybe 20 years, the smartphone has displaced these as preferences. And when we answer this question, we're not saying that we're so enamored of this piece of glass and plastic and metal in our pocket. What we actually mean is we're not willing to give up our smartphone because we're not willing to be disconnected, even for a few minutes. And again, to get to these changes wrought in 2020, think about how important it was to be connected with that little device in a world where many of us couldn't go outside, couldn't leave our homes. And of course, we're desperate for connection, for news about what was happening in the world. That's just an example of one megatrend within technological breakthroughs. And Tanya, Anna, and I genuinely have the privilege of getting to think of all 5 of these megatrends, all of the ways that they're shaping the world, our society and economy, and best of all, helping investors capture these in their portfolios. So that's a bit of what we do. And with that, Lasheen, let me pass it back to you.
Wow, I'm still kind of like reeling from that. Wow, that was so good. Okay. If I liked it, I know everybody watching liked it. That was amazing. Okay, let's get me back in. Okay, here we go. So, I want to jump into a couple of discussion points here. In the past 2 years, Jeff, we've seen our workplace and companies change drastically. Now, how do you think these trends will impact the future of work specifically?
I think there's a variety of ways. Three come to mind. And I think Blackrock is well behind all three of these. So the first is just this idea of virtual work, right? So I think a lot of companies were hesitant to try virtual work for many years. It was really untested, right? And then we were forced to do the ultimate beta test in virtual work, basically over a couple of weeks, scrambling to make the transition in 2020. And it turned out that while virtual work is far from perfect, we were actually, in many cases, much more efficient and much more connected to one another than we might have ever imagined. I mean, Tanya actually joined the team and Blackrock during the shutdowns. So it was actually months of working together with Tanya before she and I ever even met in person. I think 10 years ago, that would have been impossible. And 2 years ago, people would have thought that would have been at least uncomfortable. But I hope you agree, Tanya. I think it worked out pretty well. So I think one big shift is, where we work from and how we work together and how we stay connected. And Blackrock has been really forward-looking on this and is looking towards a future of work program where we won't be in the office 5 days a week anymore. Employees will have flexibility on what days of the week they are in the office, fewer than 5. So that's one area. I think the second area is, we've seen a lot of social strife happen in 2020. Right? Over the course of the year, there were a lot of social issues that came up as we were in lockdown, as we were facing the challenges of the pandemic. And in many ways, connectivity allowed people who were like-minded on a lot of progressive issues to come together and make their voices heard. And I think another place that Blackrock has been a leader is in making that a part of our culture. Making sure that everyone's views and voices can be heard, regardless of their background or their personal story. And more than that, really acknowledging the extent to which a more diverse set of backgrounds, again, whether it's academic, cultural, age, a more diverse set of backgrounds can often lead to better outcomes because differing point of views can lead to debate that gets to the best consensus. And then last, I think, we talked about that $500 billion of investment in climate change and clean energy type solutions. I think employees broadly and consumers are demanding more accountability from the companies they work at or that they do business with. And this is another place. Actually, I think it was just this morning, BlackRock announced a $100 million investment in clean energy solutions in partnership with the Gates Foundation. And so another place where I think the future of work also becomes wanting to be part of an employer that's truly forward thinking in meeting its obligation to society and hearing its employees and its clients and what they're caring about. So I think those are three areas of transformational change, not just at BlackRock, but certainly that personally I've felt here as a member of the team.
Fantastic. And to piggyback off of that, Jeff, what would you say are the best ways for us all to prepare for these future transformations? Are there specific questions we should be asking ourselves or plans we should start thinking about right now?
Well, replace, at least some of the sort of tight-fitting business attire that you have with comfy pajama pants. I would say that's a really important part of preparing, at least for the first one. I've definitely done that. For the second one, I would say, and the third, right, both on social issues and climate change, be comfortable to speak up. I think one of the benefits that we've gotten from 2020 is that some subjects that may have been considered taboo in various workplaces historically are much less so today. And I mean that in a few ways, right? From a perspective where you just want to express your opinion about what you think a company should be, or a team should look like, or how a manager should act, or an employee should act. But also if you see an issue, I think, unfortunately, for many years, people may have felt, broadly speaking, that they couldn't speak up on particular topics, and that's not at BlackRock. But I think companies, broadly speaking, want to hear where there is a problem, and increasingly want to be able to address that problem, and make people feel comfortable to bring it into the light. And so I think, comfy sweatpants, and voicing what you would like your company to be accomplishing, and calling out any challenges you see in getting there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For the record, although I am suited up, I don't have shoes on, so I'm pretty comfortable. So I wanted to shift a tiny bit over to Tanya, actually. I'd love to bring you into discussion because I'm curious to know how being aware of these trends has impacted you. Since joining BlackRock, have you become more forward-thinking? How has knowing about these trends personally and professionally benefited you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I've definitely become more forward-thinking. I think joining the Megatrends team, I did not have a background in technology, so understanding where a lot of these technology trends are moving or exciting advances in things like genomics and immunology are areas that genuinely A, interest me, but B, I didn't know a lot about before. And more broadly, I think having the access to a breadth of resources at BlackRock, whether it's BlackRock's Investment Institute, which provides views around investment trends and what's going on in the world today, or even just daily interactions with colleagues in different teams, I feel like has also empowered me for my personal investments as well. And so I think that knowledge sharing and the breadth and diversity of resources globally within BlackRock has really been empowering for me personally as well.
Very, very nice. Very good to hear. It's evident, in this conversation that BlackRock is supporting people and building a better future. And I've learned so much today already and enjoy hearing these examples of the type of work you're able to do at BlackRock. So Anna, can you tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like and what excites you about your work?
Yes, absolutely. I'll walk you through an average day for me, which is actually a kind of a hard exercise to do because every day is a little bit different. But I've learned now, since working from home, I have to wake up early. I have to get ready. I can wear pajama pants, but I have to at least look presentable on camera because that's super important. So I'll make coffee. New obsession is flavored non-dairy coffee creamer. So if anyone has any recommendations, I'm all ears. Sweeter the better. But I'll start up my computer. I'll be listening to a podcast on what's going on in the world, because a lot of the megatrends that Jeff covered, they're really headline driven. There's innovations happening that we read about on the daily, and our team needs to know about those things. So staying up to date on what's happening in the world, super important for the job. I'll check through my emails, nothing too innovative there, just making sure I didn't miss any requests. We work with a lot of different teams in the firm, whether they want information on our products, they want a little bit of insight around our macro views, or if they want us to jump on a call or speak to their clients. I'll make sure that I'm keeping track of my inbox so I don't miss anything. And then I'll have a bunch of different meetings in the morning. If it's light on meetings, I'll work on a long-term project. I'll give you an example. One project I'm doing is I'm building out a blockchain deck for end investors. So I'll try to think through, what facts do I want to highlight? How do I make a visual that will help people understand the concept that I'm trying to bring? And that can be really fun work, at least in my opinion. I could be biased. And then in the afternoon, maybe I'll have a meeting with an external client or an internal partner team. We'll talk about the projects that we're working on. Maybe I'll have a team call with Jeff and Tanya. And again, this was a really hard exercise to explain an average day because every day is different. And that's what really excites me about my job. No day is the same. Every day something new comes up, and you learn a lot that way.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I completely resonate with what you're saying, for sure. Every day is a different, thing to tackle, different fire to put out. Makes it that much more exciting, Yeah. Absolutely. Before I get to my next question, someone did want to know, what podcast do you listen to?
Right now, I'm a big fan of The Economist's Intelligence podcasts. They give you like 2 or 3 serious must-know topics, and then the third or fourth topic will be kind of an interesting insight or tidbit. And it's only 20 to 25 minutes long, so very digestible.
Very good, very good. Thank you. So let's get into some culture conversation here. What's the culture like at Blackrock? Anna, we already have you, so how about you start?
Yes, absolutely. I would say the culture at Blackrock is incredibly inclusive. I was talking about this with Tanya earlier, and we were trying to think of like a word that really encapsulates the heart of what Blackrock's culture has to offer. And I think inclusivity is that word, because the way that the organization works, or the way that teams work with each other, is very like horizontal. There's no one person in the room telling you what you should think and how to think it. You really partner with other teams to be solutions based and think about how to together to arrive at the right answer. And I think for that reason, it's incredibly inclusive because it takes everybody's opinions into account.
For sure. How about you, Tanya?
Yeah, I would definitely echo the point around inclusivity. And I think that breeds a culture of collaboration in a way that I've quite frankly not witnessed at other organizations. So I think it's a really powerful way, not only to come to a decision very thoroughly, since you're working with so many different groups and people, but it's also a way to sort of understand how to influence others, how to work in a way that's really driving towards a common cause. And I think the piece for me that's really gratifying is that at the end of the day, maybe you're working with 15, 16 different people on a particular project. Once you've reached that final outcome, it really feels like it's a win for everyone. And I haven't, again, witnessed that at other organizations necessarily as much as I witness it here. And so I think that camaraderie that kind of comes out of that cultural aspect is really powerful and very much unique to a place like Blackrock.
That's so cool. Jeffrey, anything you want to chime in on?
I think Anna and Tanya covered it really well. I think we need to make it a little more practical, but on the same point around consensus and inclusivity. Senior leaders at the firm really share strategic vision, right? And so I think everyone across the different organizations, iShares, our ETF business, in the case of the three of us, understands the strategic priorities of the business. But what senior management doesn't do here is sort of come down from on high and tell you exactly how to accomplish those objectives. And I think in some ways, that can leave you with a moment of, shoot, how do I do this? But once you sort of put your head down, start talking to the people around you who at this place are brilliant, motivated, excited people, you end up with this amazing marketplace of ideas with many people in many different parts of the business having proposals and thoughts about how to pursue those strategic objectives. Some of them reach consensus, some of them don't. And so that process takes time. And I think for new employees here, it can take a little while to get used to that sort of a process. But when it works, when it comes together, when we do reach that consensus, we're able to drive to really powerful outcomes because we've done the work to make sure everyone is rowing in the right direction. And we've done the work to test whether this consensus, whether this idea with which we want to move forward has the right buy-in from a lot of smart people and a lot of dedicated people who want to accomplish those top-down strategic objectives.
Absolutely, absolutely. Moving along here, Anna, how has Blackrock supported you and allowed you to grow your career?
Oh man, I mean, I've been here since I started my career, and I haven't left for a reason. Like I love being at Blackrock. I love working here. And I think one of the reasons is that there's a huge focus on growth and learning. So I know in my own time here, I've been lucky enough to be part of 2 different programs that are just focused on making me as an employee better at what I do and learning more skills that I can use in the future. So things around developing client-facing skills or writing and presentation skills, how to organize your thoughts. All of those things are like real skills that you have to learn from not just people who are good at it already, but with peers as well. And I think it comes from this idea of being a student of the market, which is something our CEO says again and again. And I think it's actually more like being a student of the world. They have to be always interested in learning, growing, and Blackrock also provides a lot of those cohorts or programs for you to do that, so that you can not only be good at your current job, but be good at roles in the future. My mom always says education is something that no one can take away from you. And I really believe that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's undeniable for sure. So what are some of the benefits women can expect if they join Blackrock? Hey, Tanya, how about you kick it off?
Sure. I think Blackrock is really distinctive in this regard in terms of benefits, particularly for women. Blackrock really aims, I think, to support women through all phases and journeys of their life, whether it be family planning, be it fertility or adoption services, all the way towards long-term financial planning, retirement planning, and the like. And so I really think these services and resources are really critical, because I think it makes you feel valued as an employee. And second, it really helps you manage your life outside of the workplace. And I think that's a theme that Blackrock has really, really emphasized, and particularly so during such a challenging year and a half for us all. And Blackrock also provides a myriad of mental health resources, which I know Anna can speak to a little bit more. So I'll hand it off to Anna.
Yeah, absolutely. I know even before I touch on mental health, one benefit that Tanya and I bonded over early in our time working together was Blackrock has really good deals on car rental when we were planning for our vacations. So it was, I mean, something as little as that can be really, really practical and helpful. But on a more serious note, Blackrock's definitely taken a serious look at how we talk about mental health at the workplace. They recently hosted a firm-wide conversation that I never thought I would see in my life. Like the CEO of our company, the Today Show co-host, Carson Daly, and a former US Attorney General, all in the room talking about their mental health and their experiences. And I think that is so cool and so important. And they offer, they're not just talking the talk, they're not just showing how to have these conversations, they're also walking the walk, providing benefits like free counseling or other such like really tangible benefits when it comes to mental health. So I know for one, as an employee, I'm really grateful for Blackrock, not just furthering the ball around making mental health something that you can actually talk about in the workplace, but also for the practical benefits as well.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. I'm wondering, what advice do you guys have for someone who might be interested in a career in Blackrock? Tanya, how about you kick it off?
Yeah, I think the advice that I would have is figure out for yourself the things that you want to work on personally, professionally. Blackrock will undoubtedly have a part of the organization, a role that will help you develop that, or multiple roles. For me, it was helpful for me to jot down before I joined Blackrock and when I was in between jobs, like, what are the things that I wanted to accomplish for myself? It's not about like, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? It's about how can I better improve myself and how I bring myself to work, and what are the skills that I really want to help refine over time, whether that's public speaking, whether that's strategy, whether that's learning to be more entrepreneurial, right? I think all of these things, having that North Star for you in terms of your goals and skill development is really important, and I think really imperative to keep in mind if you're looking to join Blackrock or even another company in general.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. I do want to open the floor for Q&A. And I wanted to just let everyone know that there is a slot on the bottom of the Zoom that says Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, this is where you're going to go on ahead and put that in. So first question that I have is, does Blackrock offer any opportunities for employees to learn about personal investing? And anyone can take these questions, by the way.
Yes, we do. So look, BlackRock's a big company, right? And obviously people think of us as an asset management firm, and that is fundamentally what we do. But not everybody here is an investor. In fact, most people here aren't investors. You might be in sales, you might be in human resources, you might be in an accounting function, you might be in a technology function. So I think, first of all, is that BlackRock doesn't start with the assumption that every single person here is a 20-year, 10-year portfolio manager, right? We're all people building our careers and building our retirement nest eggs in different ways. And so in addition to a variety of online, I think it's through Harvard Business School, courses that you can take on any range of subjects, including investing, we also have a connection with a financial planning organization that will give you free discussions and conversations on how you're going to plan your own retirement and your life. And as part of our 401k plan, which is obviously how many people save for retirement, it's actually recently expanded to have various tools to help you test and understand your retirement goals and think about how you achieve your retirement outcomes. So I think there's actually a variety of ways, but I guess of them, like I said, the most tangible is BlackRock will connect you at no cost to a financial planner who will help you understand these questions for yourselves.
That's fantastic. That's tremendous for sure. Let's see. We have another question that just came in. What opportunities might be available at BlackRock in human resources, more specifically organizational development?
Happy to take this one as well. So human resources, I think, as everyone on this call knows, is one of the fastest growing categories of work, right, in the United States. And we've seen the same thing at BlackRock, right? A significant increase in our staffing. And a lot of that connects to what I was talking about earlier, the firm's focus on hearing its employees, understanding their needs, making sure that we have a safe space for people to speak up and to speak out. And so I think there have been a number of roles here at the firm that are actually newly created or newly expanded, where the organizational dynamics of cultural inclusion, of sustainability, and the various processes to make sure that we're transparent with our employees, as well as externally with our shareholders and the like. So I think that's a big growth area for the firm. Anybody who's interested in it, I would encourage you to check out the BlackRock Careers website. You can filter it for human resources roles, and I think you'll see a number of them that are around organizational change available to you.
Very good, very good. So let's see, another one. Would you have a place for applicants with a political background along with private sector finance experience?
I'm happy to take this one. I think there are a number of roles within BlackRock, and I think what I've noticed in my short time here so far is that BlackRock is really just open to hiring bright, driven people, right? And so there are so many roles that can take into account that type of experience, whether it's on our private market side, whether it's within the iShares business. I think that it's really a great culture that we look for people first, as well as, you know, the richness of people's backgrounds and experiences. So, you know, I come from a non-traditional background. I did not study finance when I was in undergrad. And I have spent the majority of my career in financial services. And so this one is near and dear to my heart because I really believe in hiring smart, driven, hardworking people. And I believe that, you know, with all the learning and development opportunities that we have here at BlackRock, being able to get that subject matter expertise over time is probably just as easy as, you know, stepping into your new role and being able to culturally integrate. So I just want to emphasize that all backgrounds are very much appreciated at a place like BlackRock, and we welcome any type of background and experience.
That is fantastic. And I resonate with what you just mentioned too, because my undergrad, what I went to school for has nothing to do with my career at all. And it actually never had. So yeah, I totally get that.
I studied philosophy and history in college, and there's not too many jobs in the professional world for philosophy and history. But I think, to echo what Tanya said, we want people who know how to think.
Yes.
We want people who know how to collaborate. We want people who are driven and who are smart, and they come from all walks of life, all academic backgrounds, and all professional backgrounds. We talked a lot about Blackrock being a place where consensus is super important. So, if you were working in Washington in politics, and you were able to achieve some consensus there, please come over, because that's a tricky thing to do these days. We could use consensus builders with that level of skill to join us.
Absolutely. Okay, good. Some more questions are coming in. Anna, you had mentioned you've had several roles at Blackrock. Were the opportunities presented as part of a formalized development program, recognizing internal opportunities on your own, or both?
So the part of the business that I joined when I started working at Blackrock was kind of like a desk-based role for sales positions, and there was kind of like an informal track for that type of career progression. You go from working on an inbound desk where you talk to kind of everybody, you're a generalist, and then you get more and more specialized as you move up into the organization. So I'd say it wasn't necessarily a formalized development program, but I think for certain types of roles at Blackrock, there is this kind of like almost like a track that you can follow to see like where you could go within that specific organization. I think the best advice somebody told me when I was at Blackrock was that your career isn't a ladder. It's more like a rock climbing wall. You're not necessarily going to go up one path. You're going to kind of make different changes, move laterally throughout the firm. So that's been my experience. And I hope that's a little bit more context. I hope that's helpful.
Anna, can I embarrass you a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for the permission. So there's a variety of paths that people follow here, and there are a variety of programs, right? So Anna mentioned two that she's involved with. One is available to a variety of associates and vice presidents in our iShares business, and it helps them grow in their careers, particularly within our product organization. And some of them are areas where we've picked incredibly high performing talent who we think have really incredible growth potential. And there we want to accelerate their careers. And so Anna was actually asked to participate in one such program. I think she was 6 of 200 people who were eligible and ultimately included in that given year. And that's just one of many programs at Blackrock where we're focused on accelerating really top performing talent. So congratulations on that inclusion, Anna. I know you're very modest, so you wouldn't bring it up yourself, but I thought I would do it for you.
That's fantastic. No, congrats indeed, Anna. And I love the analogy that it's not a ladder. It's much more of a rock climbing, as you guys can see from all of these bad boys behind me. I'm into that kind of stuff. So really happy that you brought that up. I resonated with that one for sure. So going back to the Q&A, does Blackrock value individuals with financial service backgrounds from outside of the US or specifically UK?
I did take that one as well. We value people with experience from all different geographies, right? And I think one of the tremendous benefits that Blackrock brings to the table is it's thought leadership, and that's global, right? We are a global firm, and we have offices all around the world. And I think that part of people's diversity in experience is also the diversity of places that they've worked. And I think that brings a unique cultural aspect to collaboration, the way you think about things. And I think that is very much valued at a place like Blackrock.
For sure. Well said. Anybody want to chime in, or was that at least the general sentiment there?
And you nailed it.
Very good. Next up, This is an interesting one. Does BlackRock need anyone with experience in data privacy?
Yes. So I think there's a few ways I would tackle that. One is one of our actually most successful funds that Tanya and Anna and I look after is a fund IHAK. It's our cybersecurity ETF. So I think data privacy as an investment opportunity issue is something that's really important to us. I think data privacy is really important to us because we work with a lot of clients, financial advisors, sometimes their end investors, institutions, and it's incredibly important to us to keep that information protected, confidential, in the spirit with which it's shared with us. So I know not only as an investment opportunity in privacy, that's really important to us, but also we take very seriously the privacy of the data that's entrusted to us at the same time.
That was a very good specific question there from Lindsay Martin. That's how you shoot your shot. Just ask them straight up if they need someone that can do this. Very good. Okay, and then I was wondering, this is one of my favorite questions that I like to ask in these sessions. And I want each of you guys to answer. What's one piece of advice you want to share with your younger self?
You have no idea where you're going to be in 10 years. Whatever you tell yourself, you don't have a clue. You know, I won't give it much explanation beyond that, but I think it goes back to Anna's amazing analogy. You have to drive your career, but you also have to let it take you certain places. Have faith in yourself. If you've selected the right organization, you're working with the right people, have faith in that organization and those people, and you'll get to where you're going. But it's probably not going to look like whatever you imagined when you graduated college or when you started your career.
Absolutely. What do you guys think?
I would say the same thing as Jeff, but I will say something else beyond that. For me, I think one of the most important things that I wish I could have told my younger self was bringing my whole self to work. And part of that, I think, as I gain more experience, is also being able to have a sense of what work-life balance looks like. And I can't reiterate like how important that is, especially it's tough given that we've all been working from home for a sustained period of time, but making sure that you can, pause, take a breath, recharge, like that is just so important in your career, and making sure that you keep that a priority is so, so important. And I think it enables you to do a better job at work. And so I think if I could have told my younger self that, I probably would have enjoyed some of my former years a little bit more.
Because Tanya, you didn't necessarily work at Blackrock in those former years, or we promote a healthy work-life balance.
Exactly. And I think that's important. And I think we're also in a society that really, really like glamorizes like productivity and the grind, and it's important to keep that into context, right? Like these are jobs, and at the end of the day, like prioritizing your family, your friends, your hobbies, like all of that is just as much important to your own self-identity as working at a place like Blackrock is.
I love that. Absolutely. Anna, what do you think?
Well, I wish I had all of that advice. So I'm going to try to incorporate. I agree with everything they said. My advice for myself would be to not be afraid to make mistakes. Sometimes you have your best life lessons. You learn the most that you could ever learn by doing the wrong thing. And that's how you know the right thing. So I'd say, yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Because when we are our younger selves, everything is like so critical for us. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. It's over for me. Lights out, game over. But guess what? We have a whole nother 10, 20, 30, 40 years to go ahead. So get over it. Yeah, I agree. Let me see. Oh, something else came in. Do you have programs for people who have a voluntary career break?
I'm not familiar with programs for a voluntary career break, but I certainly know a lot of people here who took a voluntary career break. I took a voluntary career break actually before I joined Blackrock. I had been involved in a startup organization. We decided that the startup wasn't going to start or go up after a little while. And so I voluntarily parted ways with that effort, took a bit of time off, and then joined Blackrock. So I'm not sure if we have specific programs for that, but I would say many people come in here after having taken a break for whatever reason. So it's not something that's frowned upon.
Very good, very good. Okay, and then let's see here. Oh, okay, this one I'd like everyone to answer as well. If there's one thing you want people to remember as a result of our conversation here today, guys, whether it's about the trends, the future of work, or just working at Blackrock, what would it be? Like, what's the main takeaway to leave with today?
Go ahead, Anna.
Okay, I'll go first.
For anyone who can't tell, we're watching each other's mute buttons go on and off to figure out who's going to speak first. And Anna and I unmuted at the same time, but you go ahead.
Sure. My takeaway would be to always be learning, be a student of the market, be a student of the world. Short and sweet.
Only work in an organization and with people that you respect in the first instance and that you enjoy in the second instance. We spend an insane amount of time in our lives at work and with the people we work with. And frankly, life's too short and our own sanity and satisfaction is too important to not be aligned with the mission of your company. And frankly, deeply enjoy your relationship with your coworkers.
Spot on.
I have a tough job because I agree with both Anna and Jeff, but I will say also just having a great sense of self, right? Like everybody has different objectives at different points in their lives. So always taking a pause to understand, like, what do I want to accomplish in this phase of life, right? I think a lot of people like to project really far out into the future, but it's okay to say, like, you know, based on the next couple of years, this is what I want. And always having that as sort of your core grounding mechanism for what you want to accomplish is really important.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I do not see any more questions at the moment. Folks that are listening in, is there anything else? We have about 6 more minutes, and I'm sure everyone's excited to answer anything that might come in. Give them a few seconds to get those fingers typing. And just a reminder to everyone, we are going to send an email after this call with the link to this webinar, and it'll also be up on YouTube as well. So that's really cool too. I got to tell my friends on YouTube. It's really cool. It looks like something may have. Okay. So yeah, well, we'll give it a couple more seconds, see if anybody has anything else, and if not, we'll go ahead and wrap up. But I just wanted to say for myself, folks, it's been a blast talking to you guys in this hour. I've learned a lot. Really just still reeling from Jeffrey's presentation earlier. That was so cool. And I definitely would like to explore that more and just learn more about these megatrends as well. Okay, we got one more that could actually take us home here. What are your collective journeys that led you all to Blackrock?
I'm happy to kick off. I was a casualty of the financial crisis. I lost my job when my company went out of business. It was my first job out of school. The company collapsed. It was called Bear Stearns, for anyone who's heard of it. And, you know, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. I joined a family office. We tried to start this hedge fund. It wasn't ultimately successful. And at that point, I paused and I stopped. And that's when I took a minute for myself. And I said, what do I really want to do? And who do I really want to be? And I didn't make the mistake of knowing where it would take me in 10 years, but kind of in the way that Tanya was describing, what are the parts of myself I want to exercise and stretch, and what don't I have today that I want to achieve tomorrow? And I don't mean in terms of compensation or title, but the sorts of attributes that I can deliver as a professional. And I decided to make a big shift from being a very technically skilled person in a narrow area to becoming a generalist who handles a lot of different facets of a business. Not something I would have guessed a long time ago, definitely a big sea change shift in what I do. But I really thought about it. I really thought that was the right answer for me. I got great advice from other people who encouraged me in that direction, and it ended up being the best decision I ever made. And Blackrock has supported and encouraged me in continuing on that path.
That is tremendous. What a story.
I'll go next. So for me, my journey has been a series of accidents for most of my career. But I will say, similar to Jeff, prior to taking this role, I also paused a little bit as well. I think one of the reasons that I was so attracted to this opportunity at Blackrock was you get to really learn how to build and run a business. 2 years prior, I was actually getting my full-time MBA, which was a nice opportunity for me to take a 2-year break and again, like really think about what it is that I wanted. And I reflected back on my time at business school when I was interviewing for this role, and I was like, what really excites me at the end of the day? To see how a business is run and built. And the fact that I get to do that every single day and sort of see the fruits of that labor is just so incredibly exciting. And seeing, like a lot of the things that I saw in theory in my MBA program play out in real life is really satisfying. So for me, that's sort of what led me here. And I'm excited to see where this journey takes me next.
Amazing. And with 1 more minute, take us home, Anna.
Oh, sure. I'll keep it quick. When I applied to Blackrock, I was a junior in college, so I don't think I really knew what asset management was. I don't think I really knew what Blackrock was as a company. I was using our college recruitment website to submit applications so that I could get a job when I graduated. And when I saw that I was being offered to interview with Blackrock, that's when I kicked into high gear and I was like, all right, what is asset management? Who is Blackrock? And the more I read about the company, the more I felt like, wow, this is a place I would really want to work when I'm out of school. So I was fortunate to interview, fortunate to work here. I love my job. I love my team. Jeff and Tanya, it's been awesome working with you guys. And I hope that's a quick summary of how I got here. Very different journeys, as you can see across the team.
Guys, with about 30 seconds left, once again, I just wanted to say this has been tremendous for me. I'm sure that our audience has enjoyed it as well. You guys all light up when you talk about Blackrock, and I love seeing that because I'm the same way with FGB. Again, folks, the future of work is now. 5 trends you need to know. We just learned them. Thank you so much for everyone listening in. Thank you so much to the panelists. And they're going to kick us out soon. So everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.